guys, let's dive in. We are just 2 minutes after the top of the hour. We want to be respectful of everyone's time. My name is Andrew Pryfogle. I'm the founder and CEO of CX Effect. Really excited about this conversation with our good friends at Quiq. Quiq is really disrupting the space around chatbots and challenging some of the traditional thinking out there about what chatbots are used for and how they're performing. And we're going to get your feedback on that in just a moment. But also thrilled to have a Quiq customer on the phone with us, Kat Garcia. Kat, welcome. Kat is with Loop, a really innovative, forward-thinking insurance company, and we're kind of a modern take on that, and have really embraced digital self-service on the front end, and they're seeing some fantastic outcomes that Quiq is driving for her and that company. So we're excited to learn more about that. Also on the call with us today is John Andersen, who is a conversational architect. That's a cool title in today's world of AI, right? We can't just have conversations; we actually have to architect them now, and that's a big important job. And then Mr. Mike Myer, CEO and founder. I think Michael Hartsog is also moderating some of the chat, so who runs all the alliance relationships at Quiq. So welcome everybody. Good to have you guys. All right. Well, let's dive in. I want to do a quick poll to start. We want to get your take on just 3 quick questions around AI. And if you see the poll on your right there, I want you to respond just in real time. That first question, what percentage of brands do you think will be adopting customer-facing AI in 2024? That's one question. The other is, how confident are you that an AI assistant can answer routine questions as well as a human agent? We probably have all had experiences that might challenge the idea that a bot is maybe ready for prime time or not, right? So looking for your answer there. And then last is, what impact will AI have on customer service in the next 2 years? And we've heard estimates all over the place around that question, around massive changes all the way through. It's not going to be that disruptive at all to customer service. So I'm curious where you guys come down on. We'll see some answers pop in here. Right now, it looks like, what percentage of brands do you think will be adopting customer-facing AI in 24? Over 75% of you are saying, a third of you are saying more than 75%. About half, more than 25%. Maybe it suggests we're still at kind of the early stages of this. Early adopters that are really jumping on board with AI ahead of the curve. We're seeing a lot of that right now. It'll be interesting to see if that accelerates this year. This answer here, how confident are you that AI assistants can answer routine questions as well as a human agent? And 100% of you say AI will be able to answer some questions, but we'll still, I think that question got cut off for me. I think it's, but I think it still will require some human intervention there. So not 100% there yet, but it's getting close. And then you think most are saying it will incrementally improve customer service. Excellent, guys. Great start. I want to have this conversation because, and we can drop the poll there. Thank you, Stacy. I want to have a conversation about this because I think what's interesting to me, and you guys have heard me talk about this before, about AI or automation gone wrong, right? As consumers, we have all had really bad experiences over the years around maybe the best of intentions. Somebody throws out an AI bot, a chat bot, they throw out some digital self-service kind of capability. And as a consumer, as we navigate that tool, it actually is really frustrating and damages the customer experience. It's not effortless or frictionless at all. And that's kind of just the opposite of what we're trying to get to. Is it time for us to kind of challenge the way that we've been thinking about chatbots and AI chatbots? And is there a better, faster, smarter way to do this? Mike, let me just open up the conversation to you. I know you have a couple of slides to take us through as well, but welcome to the call. My opening premise there, I'm curious, how much do you think of the perceptions around AI and chatbots is shaped right now by our own consumer experiences?
I think a lot of the perceptions at the current moment are driven by a generation of technology that is no longer applicable. And so what I mean by that is, in the prior years, we had very structured decision tree type bots that felt like we were interacting with a computer. And the way that we had to morph our behavior to conform to the chatbot's desires, or the way the chatbot could actually handle our inputs. And with the latest AI, we now have this much more powerful tool that we can build conversational experiences that not only understand better, but are also able to generate responses unlike anything that's existed in the past. So I'd encourage everyone to maybe put aside their preconceived notions of chatbots and listen today about what we're going to tell you is possible with an AI assistant. And an AI assistant is a different thing than a chatbot.
Good. I love it. That's a great kickoff. Well, why don't you drop into some of your slides really quick, because I want to tell this story and paint the picture of kind of how companies have been tackling this and what your unique approach is.
Awesome. Well, to tell the story, and I'm going to go ahead and start sharing. To tell the story, it's really useful to first understand who Loop is and the challenges they faced, and then we'll talk about the solution that we deployed for them. So I'm going to first allow Kat to introduce Loop Insurance and why they are different than your traditional insurance provider.
Love it.
Perfect. Good morning, everyone. I'm Kat Garcia, Director of Member Services at Loop Insurance. And Loop is a registered B Corp insurtech, and we're focused on the belief that you pay your premium is based on how much you drive, where you drive. It's not about certain rating factors like some of the legacy carriers use, like level of education, credit score. That shouldn't drive your premium. And so that's why we're changing the system of how we offer an insurance product to our customers, and maybe customers that are in a different community that don't have the best credit scores. And so it's not just about selling these customers an insurance policy and saying, all right, we're done with you and we'll see you in 6 months when you renew. No, it's about bringing support. And we do that through financial classes, how to invest in real estate, side hustles like supplemental income, and teaching that community of members that we have how to budget, how to leverage credit. So we are trying to educate this and not just stopping with just the insurance product. And so we want to make sure and meet people where they are. And that's where a lot of our partnership with with Quiq has come through. Where do you want to be serviced when you're looking at a company to do business with? How are you checking on orders through Amazon, through Macy's, to make sure that there's presents under the tree when it's time to get? We need help in order to make sure that we're managing our customers' needs when and where and how they want to be done. I think insurance was sitting across the table from an agent doing business. And some people like that. Some people like having 24-hour service available through a call center. But some people, and our customers, are needing this and demanding this. They're looking to work with an AI, a chat, to be able to get an immediate need, an immediate answer for their problem, for how do I make a payment for my car insurance? It's due tomorrow. How can I get some help? And so that's where our partnership with Quiq has come in so handy to help my team, the member services team, be able to manage that demand. We've had a lot of success in 2023, but that success means new customer journeys that need help with tools like Quiq.
Kat, the promise of AI to be able to get us answers faster, right? At its core, Customers want answers to their questions faster. They want them to be accurate. They don't want to have to wait or to hunt around. For me, one of my bigger frustrations with a chatbot is I ask a question and it gives me 3 knowledge articles, and I have to go click on an article and read 6 paragraphs of text to try to decipher my own answer. It's like, just tell me, just answer my question, please. Right? Quiq has done an amazing job at that. You're leveraging that kind of capability. Am I right?
That's correct. And that's part of what makes this generation of AI so much different. We've all probably played with ChatGPT. One of the remarkable things about this generation is that it is generative, which means that we can provide a bespoke, concise, on-point answer that is tailored exactly to the question that you ask. And so we'll show that here in a moment. So Kat, thank you for the introduction to Loop. Love the company, love the mission, and love the edginess of the car insurance industry is broken. Before we continue on, I will also say that's Loop Insurance. Andrew did a brief introduction of Quiq in the beginning, and just a additional word about Quiq. John and I are working with large brands to deliver great conversational experiences. I'm the CEO and founder. John is a conversational architect, and he's involved in the implementation. So he'll be doing the demos as we go along today.
Great.
So let's dive in and talk a little bit about this, the world that Kat lives in. And I'm super sympathetic because I work with CX leaders all day long. And it's like a no-win job because you need to serve more customers. You need to keep your agents happy. You need to manage a budget and drive down budget. You always want to be delivering the best customer experiences. You have to worry about customer satisfaction. And it's like being in a pressure cooker, and all these different competing constraints are just pressing in at you from all different sides. And so, Kat, is your world really this bad?
Very much hit close to home. Yeah, we grew so much in 2023, as I was sharing. But with that comes, like I said, that customer journey. And we are just getting inundated with emails, request forms through our website. Hey, can I add my team driver? All of those are normal steps of an insurance company, but they build up quickly. And we faced that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was perfect timing.
It's great to be like a victim of your own success. You're so successful, and obviously one of the challenges with insurance is you don't want to scale linearly. Like you want to get some economies of scale and figure out how to increase the business without increasing the number of customer support agents that are every time you add a customer, you don't want to add a customer support agent.
Yeah, yeah. And, to that point, I love you mentioned that because for so long, there's always been a direct correlation, Mike, between if you want to scale an organization, you simply have to scale the operation as well, right? And the number of bodies and people interfacing with customers. And that's a broken model in a world where it's difficult to recruit and retain customer service people, in a world where the labor problems facing a lot of CX leaders are very, very real. If I can't scale it, if I can't afford to scale it with humans, then I've got to figure out ways to leverage technology. And you guys are on the cutting edge of that.
That's awesome. So let's talk about what we did to help the Loop Insurance team scale. And so we deployed an AI assistant that was able to solve 3 times more questions than before. And we'll talk a little bit more as we go along about the specific outcomes of this deployment. But at a high level, what we did was we built an assistant, and you're seeing an animated image on the screen that is a sample conversation. We'll show a live conversation here in a moment. But we built an AI assistant that uses large language models, kind of like ChatGPT, but not necessarily like ChatGPT, because we've eliminated some of the downsides of a public-facing LLM like ChatGPT. The AI provides, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, very personalized, contextual, concise answers. You ask about a specific model of a car, and you're going to answer back about that specific model. And that was never possible in the past, because with prior generations used natural language to understand the customer's intent, and then you served back a standard answer. It was not possible to actually take a standard answer and then morph it into the specific situation that the customer was asking about. And that's what's possible in this generation. As Kat mentioned, Loop is a regulated industry. Insurance is touchy stuff. And so we need to be very careful that the information that customers are provided is on point and accurate. And so we're only using Loop approved information to answer customer questions. And I'm sure as we go along, if you're haven't already, we'll provide a URL to go and test the Loop Assistant at the end. You'll notice when you're using the Loop Assistant that the current version is driven off of static information. And so we can answer questions about, like, how do I get an insurance card? But we can't actually provide the insurance card at that moment. And the reason that the generation that's deployed has that limitation is because the Loop team, as they've been growing, I love startups, so I can completely relate to the strain of the organization. As the Loop team has been growing, they've also been not just growing customers, but they're building an internal system that's essentially their insurance management system. And they're building that from scratch. And that system just came online at the beginning of the year. And so we're on our next step of our assistant, we'll be expanding it to support API access so that customers can do things like get a copy of my insurance card. And so that's coming. Our limitation on the first implementation was based on the fact that the Loop team was still finishing up their internal system at that point in time.
And we can't wait. We're so excited. This is going to be so good. Being able to really see the self-service piece of this, just like boom, with this next iteration and the connection of the API to the chat.
That's exciting. That's exciting.
Okay, so that's the lead up. I'm sure at this point everybody's like, well, let me go see this, and we'd like to show it to you. So I'm going to stop sharing, and John is going to take over the reins of this show, and we'll see the Loop Assistant do a few simple queries, and we can explain some of the differences in this generation versus prior generations.
Great.
Here we can see the a little proactive notice. I'm going to zoom my screen in a little bit to make it easier to read. And I'm just going to start interacting with it. So we've got a little bit of an intro message up front. That can be static or generated. Right now it's static for the way that Loop functions. I'm just going to ask it, what is Loop? So it's going to tell me it's a car insurance company. It's got a little bit of information here about liability coverage and offering comprehensive for up to 80,000. So it's got some information about what Loop is, and it's going to give me that. If I follow this up with something like, and where can I see the cost? All right, and we'll talk about some of these links that are being generated as well. These are, again, these are determined by the LLM with a bunch of guidance around what kinds of links they should be sending. So here it's going to tell me how to get a quote. And so it's going to tell me exactly where to go. Now, I happen to be on the website right now, but this assistant also runs over SMS and Apple Messages and Google Messages, so on your phone. So you can click out to here, go, and then it's telling me how to get to this Get My Price. This link is also going to take me to that location as well, so that I can go ahead and get the actual information that I want from the question that I asked. And then lastly, I'm just going to ask it. I live in Michigan.
And while you're typing there, John, I'll also say the where can I see the cost? Well, it was basically referencing the subject of the prior message, so there's a little context that the AI understood there about the question.
Absolutely. And so sometimes now that I get to work with these LLMs a lot, that is something that I take for granted. But yes, if I came in and just asked him, where can I see the cost? There's no context there, but within the context of a conversation, now that question makes sense, and so I can get an answer that also makes sense. One thing we found is in developing these is it's not always just about what the assistant knows, what knowledge we've allowed it to have access to, but also knowing what it doesn't have. So in this case, you have coverage in Michigan. Loop does not have coverage in Michigan, right? So for me, it's going to give me this answer. It's not in Michigan. It's not something that is offered here, and so it can contextualize an answer, and you can see it calls out specifically in Michigan, something that we couldn't really do in a prior gen bot. I am going to just do a quick, fresh conversation here so that I'm not giving it all sorts of random context as we're asking questions. I'm going to do something like, I don't know, I just financed 2023 Camry. If I can type. Truthfully, if I mess up the typing, it's not really going to matter that much because it can handle it. And make sure I'm covered. Do I need to update my policy? Right. So got a new car. I have some questions. I want to know what I need to do. So this is something that a customer is going to come in and be able to ask. And we're going to get this answer right here. And the cool part about this is not only does it answer and tell me what I need to do, it talks about the fact that it's recognizing what vehicle I've talked about, and it's giving that back to me in a conversational and contextual way. So it feels much more natural. It feels like it's paying attention to me and it's understanding what I need. In addition to that, it's going to send me the update coverage request form. That's the way that we can do business with Loop right now, is through these forms. So it's giving me the exact form that I need. So rather than just sending me to the help center, it's sending me to the form that the help center mentions. And so that's the exact form that I need to fill out to add this new car to my policy.
Right.
I'm going to do, again, a fresh conversation just to keep the context not kind of being all over the place. And I'm going to say this one, Kat, I don't remember if you were on one of these very first meetings, but I can't, sorry. I'm struggling to talk at the same time. So we showed this question right up front with Loop. My car was stolen, is my aftermarket stereo covered? And I remember Kevin at the time looking at it and saying, like, as the assistant was getting its answer ready, right? This, if you have comprehensive coverage as part of your auto insurance policy, all this, Kevin was telling me this answer, and it popped up, and his eyes went wide, and he, it's just because this answer actually comes from 2 or 3 different sources in the knowledge base. Prior generation bots couldn't answer this, because even if we had an intent built around a stolen car, or what's covered, or any of that, it's not only contextualizing the answer, right? It's talking about my aftermarket stereo. It's also giving an answer from multiple sources, a very nuanced answer from multiple sources in the knowledge that allow a user to get the answer to the question they are actually asking. So,
and John, one clarity on that as well, because I think it's an important distinction. There's concerns about like hallucinations with generative AI, right? You're not using this technology to source public domain information. You're using this to source information that is inside of the Loop private domain that is kind of firewalled, right? It's vetted. It's you know it's accurate. You're pulling from that to form your answer, which is a really important distinction to make sure that you're giving the right experience to the customer. Am I right?
Yeah, absolutely. So we want to use the language power of the model, and I'm going to show an example here. My mastercraft. We want to be able to use the power of the language model without, if I ask these questions to ChatGPT, it's going to give me far different answers. Number one, because it doesn't know anything about Loop,
right?
Because these are specific to Loop, but it also, it's going to have a lot more information, just general information. We are giving it information about Loop, and we're saying only answer based on this. But then, and I'll get into this when we show the tool towards the end. We are running through an entire prompt pipeline where we generate an answer, but before we actually send that answer to a user, we check it for facts, we check it for all sorts of guardrails, and I'll show what that looks like. But here's an example where I say, can I get a policy for my Mastercraft? Mastercraft is a boat. I promise you the word mastercraft is not in the Loop knowledge base at all, right? But so we're using the language model to understand what mastercraft is. It understands it's a boat. It knows that Loop does not, like the knowledge is that Loop doesn't have boat coverage. So it can make that leap from mastercraft as a boat. Loop doesn't offer coverage for boats, therefore I can answer this way. So we want to use the power of the language model, but not all of the knowledge of the language model. We want to give it the specific knowledge we want to work with.
Love it. Great. We're going to pop in questions as we go, guys. There was a great question from Ryan, who's asking, Kat, what other solutions were you thinking about before you chose Quiq? And specifically, some of the cloud contact center platforms out there have some chat capabilities built into their platform. You elected to go with kind of a best of breed solution in Quiq. Maybe you can speak to that real quick.
Yeah, I mean,
and Kat, maybe you also want to mention that the chatbot that you had prior to deploying here, because you did have one of these.
We did have one of these, and that's what I was going to mention. It's like I worked with Five9 before in a legacy, in a startup carrier, and we had Zendesk. Zendesk offers a chat feature. We could have just stuck within our Zendesk, suite of tools that we have available, but we decided to go with a company that is also of the same mindset that we are, building something together. And it was started as a partnership more than here, we're just going to give you this. It was together, let's see how we can make this successful for each other. And that's what really differentiated the relationship from the very beginning with Quiq. It was more than just, okay, well, I have this. I don't really need to entertain somebody, another company. It was, how can we build this together? How can we build this for our care team? How can we build this for our sales team? Next step is claims. And so it's adding on pieces that we wouldn't have been able to have that set of sort of flexibility with the Zendesk.
Yeah, very interesting. Kat, you bring up a really interesting point. I got to tell you, in my years of doing this, it seems like every single successful outcome that I've seen around AI assistance and chat have always been where there is a partnership that you're just referencing, right? Mm-hmm. Your unique needs are different, and your business is different. And to be able to work with a company like Quiq that can kind of customize and wrap their solution around what you're trying to drive is a really, really important distinction. It's not just turning on chat on my website and I'm done, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
That's great.
And being able to, oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, Kat, go ahead.
The fact that Quiq understands how to also leverage Zendesk to meet the needs within our own tools and be able to deliver it still in a way that's manageable, that we're not asking folks to manage tickets through multiple ways. There's this integration piece that's so key, that if we had this separately, if we had this built out, like we were just given a product versus customizing it, we wouldn't be able to be as successful. But yeah, Loop and Quiq know how to integrate that together, which is huge.
Yeah. That's great. That's great.
And I guess to maybe from a vendor standpoint, we spend a lot of time in the market talking to other folks who are working with other vendors, and in addition to Loop. The results that I presented earlier, and we're going to jump into results here, more results in a second, but the 3 times improvement in self-service rate was directly comparing the Loop assistant that John just showed with the Zendesk prior chatbot that was Loop previously had deployed. So we were 3 times better than that. And you mentioned vendors like Five9 or ConnectOne. At this point in time, neither of those have the generative AI capabilities to actually put a generative AI assistant in front of a customer to be able to answer and provide those bespoke personalized answers that John just showed.
Got it.
Okay, so let me dive in and let's talk about the results that we've seen, and Kat and I will kind of tag team this. So there were 4 separate results that we measured. And so the first one was the one that I just mentioned. 3 times self-service increase. That was compared to the prior Zendesk assistant. And that 3 times self-service rate translates into about half of the customers visiting the site who have questions are able to answer their questions through the AI assistant. And this is also, it's not just about like improving self-service rate. It's also about Kat and her team, they need to sleep. And Whoop is a startup company, and like you can't afford to have 7x24 coverage either.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so it's not just about like the AI is offloading some of the human agent. It's also the AI is able to handle half of the inquiries in the off hours.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. That's big.
Okay. What's the third result then? From a customer satisfaction standpoint, 75% of the people gave positive CSAT, and this is in the same ballpark as the results that Whoop sees from their human agents. And there's a bunch of people on this call. Everybody knows CSAT's a two-edged sword. Sometimes an agent or the answers can be perfect, but the person is still upset because they don't like what the policy is in place, and so they're upset at the company, even though the customer service agent or the AI acted entirely appropriately and gave the right answer. So to obtain a 75% CSAT is actually really good and on par with the humans here. And then lastly, and I'll let you jump in here in a second, Kat. Lastly, the team saw a 55% decrease in inbound email. And that is especially important because the subscriber volume was growing, the number of inbounds was increasing, the number of agents weren't. And prior to deploying this, the team was getting underwater.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when you're looking at the 3 times self-service, you're probably wondering what falls into that bucket. And so it's something like, how can I make a payment? Route me to where I need to make this payment. I'm having trouble with my app. Well, do you have the right app? Are you in the latest version of the app? If you're struggling, here are the steps that are required. That type of conversation for the AI bot handling, the assistant handling, that saves somebody on the call a 7-minute conversation of trying to go through that and trying to, understand what the customer is getting to, making sure and sending an email to the customer with the correct link. That saves a significant amount of time from just our inbound volume as well, that the customers are spending. So what we used to see as far as call times, at that point were 7 minutes, 10-minute call times for the length of a conversation. Implementing Quiq now with being able to help out on things like, how can you help me with my app? How can I make a payment? We're seeing call times now in 5 minutes. And so, that significantly reduced the amount of time, reduced time spent with, the customer getting through all of those, but we're able to help more customers as a result of the assistant.
Yeah, that's big. And to your point as well, Mike, that's no small thing to be able to move that much of the interactions, half into a digital self-service kind of motion and have it not have a negative impact on CSAT. That's a big accomplishment. Congrats for you guys on that. That's a big deal.
Thank you. Yes, John did a great job on this.
Yeah. It was a whole team. I'm the front man.
Okay, so we achieved a good outcome. How did we do this, and how does it work? And so let me first describe this in an informal way. That's like, if we were together in a conference room and I was drawing on the whiteboard, I draw a picture like this. And so let me kind of explain the steps that, and we touched on this earlier, but we'll go to the next level of detail about the steps that are involved in answering a customer's question. And after this, then we'll show you the actual tool that we build one of these assistants, and you'll start to see where the implementation of these steps live inside of the tool. So how does it work? Well, obviously the customer comes in with a question. And the next thing that we do then is we use the LLM. In traditional NLP, we would have said, like, what's the customer's question about? Well, we do that because we need to determine the intent. But there's oftentimes a lot more information embedded into a customer's utterance than just like, what are they asking about? And so in Loop's case, the things that might be useful in answering their question is like, where is the customer located? Is this currently a prospect who wants to buy insurance, or is this a customer with an existing policy? Is the person asking something that's outside the domain of insurance? Like, are they screwing with me? And if they are, I shouldn't try to answer their question. Are they saying something like, it's a nice day, or thank you? And, or are they actually asking a question? And so all those things kind of go into a phase where we're understanding what the customer said. Included in that customer utterance might also be like, my name is Mike, I'm interested in insuring a Toyota Camry. And so in that particular situation, you've given me my name. So later, if I need to do something with your name, I shouldn't ask you for that again. You know, just like a good agent would have remembered your name, the AI should have extracted and remembered the name. And so that process of LLM powered understanding, that's not like one thing, one interaction with a large language model. In the tool, that's actually multiple interactions. And it might be, I think in the Loop case, we do 7 or 8 simultaneous queries into LLMs. And depending on the type of thing that we're trying to understand, different LLMs might be able to answer differently or handle that question better. And so the tool itself supports multiple LLMs. And so I can create an interaction that uses kind of the best technologies out there to accomplish each part of the job at hand. So once we understand everything that we need to know about the customer's question, then we're going to go and try to get the information to answer the question. And that information can kind of come from 2 different places. One, it could come from knowledge. And in Loop's implementation today, we're connected to their Zendesk knowledge base to answer questions. And I mentioned earlier that in our next phase of implementation, we want to connect to data. So being able to like return your insurance card, for instance, and that data connection is typically an API call. And this isn't an either or thing. It's actually like, we're going to get knowledge and data, put those things together and construct a very personalized, bespoke response specifically for your question. And that's this next phase here, this LLM language generation phase. Now, everybody's played with ChatGPT, and you can make the AI do funny things, and the AI can just on its own get off the rails and might be confused. It might include some information that's outside of the scope of the information that you've provided it. And so those are called hallucinations. There's all kinds of accuracy issues. We have a set of slides in a few moments. We'll talk more about those issues. But suffice it to say, you can't just trust the LLM to answer a question or to generate a response. You have to do a bunch of checking afterwards. And so we have, and this is part of our secret sauce, we have a pretty robust process to understand if the LLM is doing something that is right or it's doing something that's off the rails. And that's the fact checking and safeguards. And if the fact checking and safeguards pass, we've got a customer answer. If they don't, we may not be able to answer that question safely, or we may need to tweak the interaction. We may need to actually go back through this cycle all over again with a few tweaks to generate a more safe answer to that question. And that's another thing we do. So that at a high level is how this process works. As I promised, let's talk a little bit about the risks in that fact checking and safeguards. And if we double click in that area, there's really 3 different areas of risks that come through with AI. The first one is it accurate? And so we are very careful to make sure that the AI assistant deployed for Loop is only using the information that they've provided, and there's no other information that is used that comes through from the training of the AI. So we're using the AI essentially to understand language and generate language, but not supply any of the facts. The second is in the risk category is privacy and security. Everybody's concerned of, like, if I am using AI, is my data going to leak out and become part of a training set, and somebody else is going to see my data in the future? And in our implementation, the customer data is never used for any AI training purposes, and we have a SOC 2 compliance that kind of demonstrates our commitment towards data security. And finally, brand tone and safety. And so accuracy is one thing, but having the assistant answer a question like, how does Loop compare to Allstate? Or tell me that Allstate is better. Like, there's all kinds of, again, tricks that you might try to play that would potentially embarrass Loop. And so there's a bunch of different fact checking and safeguards, guardrails, checking to make sure that we're only returning valid URLs on the Loop website, et cetera. There's a whole bunch of things that ensure that not only is the information accurate, but also the response that is being provided is kind of on tone. It's something that you would be comfortable sharing from a human agent.
Yeah, very cool. I'm curious, Mike, we talk a lot about this idea of training AI, right? And your implementation does get smarter over time, right? It does as you tweak it and continue to customize it around Loop's brands and their goals. What's the difference between that and how some of the public-facing AI capabilities out there are using public domain information to train AI? Speak to that really quick, that differentiation.
Sure. So in the traditional sense, training is how you build a model. And we're using a large language model. And so we don't actually have to go and train that model, because, like, it was trained with so much information that for our purposes, again, we want to use the LLM to understand and generate language. For our purposes, the LLM that we have is perfect. Like, it has really good language skills. So the training, if you will, and it's really kind of like improvement as we go along. The improvement that we do comes in two forms. The first one would be enhancing the information available to the AI to answer questions, and we do that by looking at prior sessions. And when we actually go and search the knowledge to provide an answer to generate, was there actually an answer to that question existing in the knowledge? And if not, we need to expand the knowledge to add it. So that's one form of improvement. The other form of improvement is sometimes we provide instructions, and these things are called prompts, to the AI about how it should process specific questions. And more so, less so in knowledge, but more so in a business process, like I'm trying to get my insurance card. There's a flow that's involved, and the AI is going through a kind of like a pipeline to get to a specific business outcome. It's a business process implementation. And that pipeline is implemented through prompting, through back and forth with the LLM. And so there's times that we also need to improve our prompts to handle more cases and improve the accuracy or the responses from the AI. So it's not really retraining the large language model. It's things that we're doing on top of the large language model to improve the experience.
Got it. Okay. Makes sense. Guys, we have a few minutes left here, but I want to have time to talk about how it's built. Great segue there, Mike. I appreciate it. Because how you do this, how you put all these pieces together is a pretty elegant solution. Talk about that real quick.
So we have a tool that's called AI Studio, and I'm going to introduce it here, and then John is going to show it. So at a high level, if you look across the blue bar at the top of this slide, there's a process involved in building AI. Like you need to get the data, and then you need to build the experience, and you need to test and deploy it, and then you need to measure and see how it's doing, and then you come back again, and you might have to add more data and improve the assistant. It's like a cycle. And so that life cycle of AI development that an AI builder goes through is supported by the AI Studio. And so the AI Studio, across the middle of the screen, then you see the components involved in the AI Studio. First, you have the resources where your data lives. You have the flow designer and editor where you create the experience. Then we have a really powerful tool that allows you to understand what the AI is doing and actually delve into prior interactions and understand why did the AI answer the way it did, which is really important because, like, you know, if somebody gets a bad experience and it goes to the CEO and then it comes back to the team, you want to be able to say, well, actually, here's the explanation, and it's not that the AI did something bad. Maybe it was our knowledge was wrong. And so being able to get that ground level truth for where the answer came from is super important. And then finally, you always need to be measuring and improving. And so the insights tools provide ability to understand how people are going through the AI experience, what percentage of people are getting the right answer versus maybe they're just dropping out. And there's always a confusion between, is it containment or resolution? And we're focused on resolution. Containment's like a bad word. We don't want to like smack people away. We want to actually have them go away happy. So the insights tool provides that. And so this whole platform runs on top of all the digital messaging channels you see on the right-hand side. In addition, the platform also is available inside of voice. Awesome. John, take it away.
Yeah. I'm going to get to show the tool that I get to use every day. So I'm going to try to keep it high level so that you don't get into all the details necessarily in the next few minutes here. But I know you can't read this. At a high level, this is the flow of a conversation as we go from node to node. In here is just labels that would help me as I work in here and see what's going on. But basically, you can see a flow would go left to right through a series of steps to that ultimate resolution. And so what I want to dive into is when we first get a user inquiry and we get to what's the first step where we saw those typing indicators and the LLM is kind of doing its thing. When I jump in here, I can set fields and I can do things like check whether agents are available so that later on I either do or do not offer an agent and things like that. But down here is where we get into the prompting. And so here you can see if I open this up, this is a prompt that is classifying on topic. So I've got 7 prompts here that run in parallel. So I can ask the LLM, I can give it very specific tasks. I can say, tell me the topic of this conversation. I can tell you, tell me the user type. Is it a prospect or an existing customer based on what they've said? What language are they speaking? What's going to be the next best step? This is where we talk about NLR, natural language reasoning. So we give the LLM a bunch of information, what the user has said, what we've said back, and then ask it to make a determination on what the next best step is in a given conversation. Is it just to acknowledge? Does someone just say hi? Just acknowledge them. Do they need an agent or do they need an answer from knowledge? So those kinds of things. But the power here is being able to run these in parallel. So where each prompt maybe takes a half a second, maybe a second, if we run them all at the same time, we're talking about, half a second to a second, second and a half, 2 seconds, whatever that is. But if we had to run those in like sequentially, we're talking, we're at 6-7 seconds of time, and that's noticeable.
Yeah.
So to be able to do that in parallel is really powerful. I can also hit a bunch of different LLMs here. So our kind of stance has been we're LLM agnostic. We can add in additional LLMs. We can work with different language models. There might be sometimes where a particular language model is really good for one task, but a different one is better for another task. And so you get used to those as you prompt and you get working with them. But we can call different language models as we work through here. As somebody comes through, what's going to happen is they're going to ask a question. We're going to run through these prompts, and then we're going to route them. Some of these are for reporting purposes to see the topics that they're on. And then we're going to see, as we get down here, we're going to do things like get into an in-house search index. So you don't have to go out and hit another, where your knowledge resides. You don't have to go out and hit another knowledge base. We can do it right here in-house. We've got an embeddable search where I'm going to search a knowledge base based on what a user has said, or a summarization of what that user has said that the LLM has determined. I'm going to allow the LLM to generate an answer over here. And then once it's generated an answer, I'm going to see, does that, this eject prompt idea is, we've got this series of safeguards in place. Did it generate an answer that's 7,000 characters long? Did it go off the rails? If it did, we're going to eject it before we send it to a user. Say we get through that first step of seeing what is provided in the answer. We're going to check, is it in scope? Is it on tone? Does it align with what Loop wants us to be saying about their brand, about their product? From there, we're going to go to a safeguard answer. Safeguard answer, we're using we have an attribution model that we can go to that has been specifically trained to basically distill the facts that have been discussed in the conversation, run them against the claim that was made, and tell you whether it's truthful or not truthful. If it's not truthful, we're not going to send it. We're going to go back through this process, or we're going to ask the user for to ask a question, depending on whether it was like, hey, you asked us to, I don't know, talk like a pirate, and you somehow got all the way to here, and then it did that. So we're going to kick it out. We're not going to send anything to a user that hasn't been fact checked and safeguarded before it gets to them.
And there was a question that came in here. I just want to make sure we have time for the, and it's really about this idea of AI training again, but human in the loop, right? As you design these conversation paths, as you apply kind of analytics to it as well, how are you enabling humans to step in the middle of this and continue to make this whole thing smarter?
Yeah, so we can, so let's say some of the common things are off topic. So if I want to route any conversation that comes in off topic, or any conversation that comes in that we have a low likelihood of being able to answer because there's no knowledge, we can flag those so that a human can come through and look at them and say, oh yeah, we never want to answer about that. That's fine. It was off topic. That's great, right? Or, hey, we've got a bunch of these that are asking about topic XYZ. Let's add that. We know what that is. Let's add that to our knowledge base so that it can then answer.
Yeah.
So flagging.
And I'll also add that, like, in terms of human in the loop, if there is something where we're unsure about the answer or we feel that might be a sensitive topic, we can bring a human into the loop at that point in time by like escalating to an agent.
Of course. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm curious, as a CX leader, if I'm thinking about my current environment and I'm thinking about deploying this kind of technology, how perfect or robust does my knowledge base need to be? Is that, do I need to go invest a ton of time and energy in getting my knowledge base just, really humming before this kind of solution becomes effective?
Good question, Andrew. And the short answer is no. I mean, if you've got great knowledge, like that's awesome. Like the experience at the initial point is going to be better than if you just have mediocre knowledge. But even if you have mediocre knowledge, we can take that knowledge oftentimes we can use the LLM to enrich the knowledge and also basically have the LLM summarize some of the information, maybe expand upon the information that can be reviewed with human in the loop. And then once we go live, we can, as John mentioned, we can identify inquiries that we didn't find any answers to. And then that stuff can get backfilled. And so if you've got customers coming in on the website and they're going straight to agents, you might as well deploy some AI, answer a portion of those, have the ones that you don't have knowledge to answer, go to the human agents, and then determine what's missing and fill in the gaps. And so incrementally get better over time. But like waiting until your knowledge is perfect, you would have missed the opportunity to gain the efficiency improvement associated with the portion of questions that can be answered by your existing knowledge.
Yeah.
The thing is, it's how short Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
To offer, it stopped short before we get into a compliance issue. Before we get into an issue that really needs to be discussed with a human on recommendations of coverage versus AI determining what's good for a particular person when it comes to X, Y, and Z. So it's good. It offers that ability to still give the customer a choice. Continue down that, revert to offer at least some solution, and then direct it to an agent when it's truly requiring that human touch to resolve an issue.
Yeah, love it. John, anything else you want to show us about kind of how you build this?
Yeah, so this is probably one of the most powerful parts of it is once I've had an event. So this is a user utterance. They said, I thought I paid last week, and I can get into the whole thing. But basically, these are events. So this is a sequential representation of what we see over here in the nodes. A particular conversation went down this path, and we hit all these various prompts. This is that entire prompt pipeline. Prompt pipeline versus you've probably all heard of prompt chaining. Prompt chaining is one after the other, after the other, after the other. We've got a prompt pipeline where we can do some in parallel and then use the output from those prompts to filter into the next prompt. This is a visual representation of that prompt pipeline. And if I come in, I can see everything that happened in this conversation. And as an example, we talk about prompt engineering and hitting the LLM and what are we telling it? If you use ChatGPT, it's naturally built the way they built it is to keep that conversational context. But if you go to the API of an LLM, it's not doing so. So what we've done is we are injecting that conversational context back into the prompt. We're using ChatML to do it, which is just the language that we're putting it in. And then we're telling, this is a very simple example, but the simplicity of this example is the power, it demonstrates the power of being able to parallel prompt. So instead of saying, hey, LLM, what topic are we talking about? Is this person a customer or a prospect? And what language are we doing? Because I have to hit the LLM at one time in order to not have that 7-second, 10-second delay. I can say, you have one very specific task. I want you to identify the topic of our conversation. And that's all I want you to do. I want you to give it to me in JSON so that I can do something with that later. And so
really powerful studio that you can build these journeys in very, very quickly and customized again around Loop. We're out of time here, but I want to give you guys a second to kind of for closing remarks here. Mike, let's start with you really quick because I want to end with Kat. If you were giving advice to a CX leader that's thinking about maybe they've had some bumps in the road with a Zendesk chatbot or something similar in the past, and they're thinking about, is there a better way to do this? Advice that you would give to them on steps they ought to take.
It's probably two pieces of advice. The one we just talked about, which is you don't have to go focus on your knowledge first. You can actually improve your knowledge once you deploy and iteratively make the assistant better. So sometimes we see people get stuck in analysis paralysis of like, oh my gosh, like I got to go collect all my information in one place and clean it up. That's not necessary. So that's one piece of advice. The other piece of advice is, every organization is different, and every organization's approach to AI is different. There is a safe way to deploy this stuff. We're demonstrating it. And so I think, encourage, if there's someone in your organization who has a bunch of AI concerns, encourage them to go and try the Whoop assistant. And hopefully it will dispel some of the belief that like actually it is safe to deploy AI in a customer-facing manner.
It's awesome. That makes a ton of sense. And there you can go to ridewithaloop.com/demo to get to that and start to play with it yourself. That's fantastic. Kat, so grateful that you carved out the time to share your experience here. You've got a lot of peers out there in the world of customer support that are tackling this same issue or thinking about it, right? And struggling with like, what do I do next to adopt this new technology? You guys are out in front of that. What advice would you give a CX leader that's thinking about making this leap?
I think one of the first things that I would consider as a leader is looking at the demands coming into my team. How can I segment these demands that I trust that AI is going to be able to answer that in a quicker amount of time than it would cost me to have a person doing this. So first, try to look at it on a map of what are the priorities that we can get, that we can get off our plate with a low lift with AI, leveraging AI, and think about how much investors in the future with your business are also interested in you using a piece of ChatGPT or AI. That is going to set you aside or set you above the rest when we're looking at our investors in our next round of funding. And that's also going to set you apart for your customers to know that they'll be able to access you 24/7, though you might not have the staffing, they'll be able to get answers 24/7.
That's a great way to finish this, Kat, because I think so many consumers are going to make their decisions about what brands they do business with based on how easy it is you've made it to do business with you, right? And there's so taking, making that investment that separates you from the competition helps somebody like Loop win in a highly competitive auto insurance space, right? I mean, that's a great story. And I love what you guys are doing at Quiq. Thank you so much for carving out the time today, guys. I talk a lot about automation gone wrong and the importance to figure out how do you do what we call delightful automation. And you guys are right at the forefront of that, automating things without sacrificing customer satisfaction. And we love what you're accomplishing with that technology. So thank you very much. And Kat, thank you again. This is awesome to have your perspective.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.
Excellent. Thanks, everyone. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you, Andrew.